The candles on my birthday cake flickered softly, their glow dancing along the polished dining table as my family sang the familiar song. I tried to focus on the warmth of the moment, the gentle smiles from my cousins, the soft clinking of forks, the way Grandma squeezed my hand every so often as if reminding me she was right there beside me. But I couldn't shake the subtle tension that lingered underneath. This wasn't just any birthday. I was turning 21, stepping into the world of adulthood, and everyone knew Grandma had a tradition of giving her heirs a significant gift at that age. No one knew what mine would be, though the whispers had started early in the evening. Jewelry, stocks, a trust fund. Even I wondered, but Grandma had remained quiet, her dark eyes sparkling with a secret she seemed delighted to keep. After dessert, she slowly pushed her chair back and stood, smoothing the elegant shawl over her shoulders. "Come with me, sweetheart," she said, her voice firm with the authority that still ruled our family despite her age. She led me to the head of the table while everyone else leaned forward, curiosity thick in the air. In her hand she held a small, velvet navy box tied with a worn gold ribbon. My pulse quickened, not from excitement but from the weight of her expression. This wasn't a trinket, this was something much bigger. She pressed the box into my palms. "Open it," she said, and I did, inhaling sharply when I saw not a ring or a necklace, but a folded stack of official documents. I pulled out the top paper, read the bolded title, and felt the world tilt slightly beneath my feet. Transfer of ownership, the Rosacliff Grand Hotel. I blinked, reading it again. $50 million. Mine. The room fell silent except for a distant gasp from someone who clearly hadn't expected this. My chest tightened with disbelief. Grandma watched me carefully, the faintest tremble in her smile. The kind of look that mixed pride with the ache of letting go. "I built that hotel with your grandfather before you were even born," she said softly. "It holds our history, our legacy, our heart, and I want you to guide its future." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes as I hugged her. The smell of lavender and old books clung to her clothes, comforting, familiar. Everyone around us erupted in congratulations, though I noticed a few stiff smiles, particularly from relatives who had openly hoped to inherit something of that magnitude. Still, their murmurs couldn't break the protective bubble I felt around me and Grandma. The rest of the evening blurred. Family toasted to my birthday, glasses clinked, laughter echoed across the dining room, but beneath it all, I sensed the undercurrent shifting. I was no longer just the youngest grandchild. I was the owner of the most valuable piece of the family empire. It was thrilling and terrifying. Then, just as the final guests were leaving, the front door swung open. My mother stepped inside, red heels tapping sharply against the floor, lips stretched into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her new husband, Harold, trailed behind her, wearing a suit too flashy for the occasion. They were late, intentionally I suspected, and the moment Mom spotted the papers in my hand, her entire demeanor sharpened. "What's that?" she asked, and the room, once warm and glowing, suddenly felt colder. I should have known then that the night was far from over. Mom's gaze locked onto the documents in my hands like a hawk spotting prey. Her lips tightened before curving into a smile so rehearsed it almost squeaked. Harold positioned himself just behind her shoulder, his hand resting possessively on her arm, as if he had any right to insert himself into this moment. The guests who had stayed lingered awkwardly, sensing the tension but unsure whether to flee or watch the unfolding drama. "Oh," Mom said, her tone syrupy and sharp at the same time. "Is that what I think it is?" I didn't answer. The question wasn't really a question, more an accusation disguised as politeness. Grandma stepped slightly closer to me, as though instinctively protecting her gift from being snatched away. "I've given the hotel to my grandchild," she said simply. "It's their responsibility now." Mom's expression froze. For a beat, I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind. Calculating, rewiring, reconstructing a new approach. Then she exhaled, smoothing her hair back in a gesture she always made when preparing to manipulate a situation. "Well," she began cheerfully, "this is wonderful news!" Truly, a blessing for all of us. She shot a quick look at Harold, who nodded like a bobblehead supporting her narrative. "Obviously, it makes sense for us to manage it together. As a family." My stomach dropped. I should have expected this. But a part of me had foolishly hoped that, for once, she might just be happy for me without twisting things to her advantage. I shook my head. "No, Grandma gave it to me. I'm going to run it myself." Her smile twitched. "Sweetheart, be realistic. You're barely 21, you have no business experience, no management training, and no idea how a high-end property operates. But your mother does. She tapped her own chest. "And Harold here has worked with luxury brands for years." Harold puffed out his chest. "It's for your own good," he added, his voice low and patronizing. "Hotels are complicated. You need someone older, wiser, to handle the real decisions." My pulse quickened, anger, embarrassment, and disbelief all swirling together. "I don't need either of you to handle anything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm the owner now. The hotel is mine to manage." A mom's veneer cracked. It was quick, just a flash of annoyance contorting her features. But I saw it, and once the mask slipped, she didn't bother trying to fix it. "Don't be childish," she snapped. "You can't just run a $50 million hotel by yourself. If you insist on playing pretend CEO, you'll destroy everything." She glanced at Grandma. "Mother, surely you didn't mean for them to do this alone. Surely you assumed we'd guide them." Grandma's silence was deafening. She merely raised an eyebrow and Mom looked away. I squared my shoulders. "The hotel is my responsibility. You don't get a say." Mom inhaled sharply, her nostrils flaring. Harold muttered something under his breath. Something about ungrateful kids, and Mom's temper snapped like a brittle branch. "Fine," she spat. "If you want to act like you don't need this family, then don't expect to live under its roof." Her eyes hardened. A cold, glassy stare I'd seen only a few times in my life. "Pack your bags and leave this house." Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. Even though I was technically an adult, even though the house wasn't truly mine, the cruelty of the ultimatum sank deep. She didn't hesitate, didn't reconsider. I wasn't her child in that moment. I was an obstacle. A heavy silence settled over the room. My throat tightened as the reality sank in. Mom didn't want to help me. She wanted to control me. And when she couldn't, she'd rather throw me out than accept I had something she couldn't touch. But before I could respond, a soft sound cut through the tension. A low, amused chuckle coming from my grandmother, slow and steady, like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Mom's head snapped toward her. "What's so funny?" Grandma rested both hands on her cane, her eyes glowing with a calm amusement I didn't yet understand. "Oh, nothing," she said. "I just find it interesting that you think you still have the authority to throw anyone out of this house." Mom blinked. Confusion flickered across her face. Then suspicion. "What are you talking about?" Grandma smiled, small, knowing, powerful. "I suppose," she said lightly, "it's time to unveil the second surprise of the night." And just like that, the entire atmosphere shifted. The storm my mother had unleashed was about to be swallowed by something far bigger and far sweeter. Grandma's words drifted through the room like smoke, slow, deliberate, and thick enough to choke the confidence out of my mother. Harold straightened, confused, while Mom's expression wavered between irritation and something close to fear. Grandma rarely used dramatic pauses, which only made this one land harder. She lifted her cane, tapped it lightly on the floor, and nodded toward the hallway that led to her study. "Everyone, follow me," she said, turning with surprising grace for her age. We trailed behind her, the atmosphere trembling with unspoken tension. Mom walked quickly, as if trying to get ahead of the revelation, while Harold lagged with the uneasy shuffle of someone who suddenly realized they'd walked into a trap. My heart hammered against my ribs. I had no idea what Grandma was about to reveal, but the way she walked, calm, certain, and almost amused, made me feel as though she had been preparing for this confrontation far longer than any of us realized. When we reached the study, she moved behind her heavy mahogany desk and unlocked the bottom drawer. From it, she pulled a large envelope, sealed with a wax stamp, the old-fashioned kind she only used for documents she considered sacred or final. She placed it on the desk and looked directly at my mother. "Before you accuse me of favoritism," she began, "you should understand the full picture. So let's start with the house you just tried to evict your own child from." Mom tensed. "Mother, what are you talking about? This house belongs to—" "It belongs to them," Grandma said, pointing at me. "Not you." For a moment, Mom didn't breathe. The color drained from her face so fast I half expected her to faint. "What?" she whispered. Grandma slid the envelope toward me. "The deed to this house was transferred to them 4 months ago. Legally. Quietly. I've been preparing them to take over our legacy, and that includes the estate." Harold coughed, stumbling over his words. That can't be right. Why would you give them everything and leave your own daughter with nothing?" Grandma's eyes sharpened. "Because my daughter has spent her life trying to take what wasn't hers." Mom's lips parted in outrage, but Grandma lifted a hand, Silencing her, she opened another folder, a much older, thicker one, filled with letters, statements, and copies of legal documents. "Do you recall," she said calmly, "attempting to sell the Rosacliff Grand Hotel 10 years ago? While your father was sick, you reached out to 4 different buyers, promising them a quick deal behind the family's back." My breath caught. I had never heard anything about this. Mom's face darkened. "That was years ago!" "I was under pressure. You were greedy," Grandma corrected coldly. "And you have only grown greedier since. I watched you bounce from one husband to another, using every marriage as a stepping stone to social status. And now," she flicked her gaze toward Harold, who squirmed, "you expect me to hand over the last pieces of this family's legacy." "No." Mom looked at Harold for help, but he was already backing away from her. "You didn't tell me all that," he muttered. Grandma wasn't finished. "You are no longer eligible for any inheritance," she said, lifting a stack of updated legal documents. "You were officially removed 6 months ago. Everything, every property, every account, every asset, goes to your child." The silence that followed felt like the air right before lightning strikes. Mom's voice cracked. "You cut me out. Completely. You cut yourself out," Grandma said. "I'm simply finalizing what you started." Mom shook her head violently, her composure shattering. "You can't do this. You can't leave me with nothing. Harold and I, this isn't fair." At the mention of his name, Harold stepped away from her, lifting his hands defensively. "Don't drag me into this. I didn't sign up for a bankrupt marriage." My mother's face twisted with betrayal. In mere seconds, the alliance she had relied on crumbled, leaving her exposed in the worst possible way. She turned toward me then, eyes blazing but filled with something almost desperate. "You did this," she hissed. "You turned her against me." I swallowed, a sting in my chest. "She's been watching you." I just didn't know how far it went. Mom's breath hitched, and for a flicker of a moment, I saw the mother I used to love, hurt, angry, lost. But then it vanished beneath a mask of fury. Before the situation could escalate further, Grandma pressed a button on her desk. 2 security guards appeared almost instantly, as if she had predicted the exact moment they'd be needed. "Please escort my daughter and her husband off the property," Grandma said quietly. "They are not to return without my express permission." Mom's scream echoed through the hall as the guards approached. "You can't throw me out! This is my home!" Motsar. But Grandma didn't flinch. I watched as Mom and Harold were guided out, her shouts growing dimmer with distance. My emotions tangled pain, disbelief, and relief all warring inside me. I didn't want this. I never asked for any of it. But maybe it had been necessary. When the door finally closed and silence settled back into the room, Grandma reached out and squeezed my hand gently. "Revenge," she murmured, "doesn't always require cruelty. Sometimes, it's simply giving someone exactly what they earned." I nodded, my voice trembling. "What do I do now?" She smiled softly. "Now, my dear, you build your future." The house felt different the next morning, quieter, lighter, as if someone had opened every window and let years of suffocating tension drift out into the air. Sunlight spilled gently across the hallway floor, and for the first time in a long time, I breathed without the heaviness of waiting for another argument, another demand, another disappointment. Mom's echoing screams from the night before still floated somewhere at the edges of my mind, but Grandma's steady presence grounded me. She was already up, seated in the breakfast room with her tea and newspaper, looking as calm as if nothing monumental had happened at all. "Sleep well?" she asked, barely glancing over the rim of her cup. I hesitated before taking a seat beside her. I think so. Everything feels surreal," she nodded knowingly. "Power often does. It takes time to settle into your bones." Her words warmed me more than the tea I lifted to my lips. I wasn't used to thinking of myself as powerful. Responsible. Stressed? Sure, but not powerful. Yet now I owned a $50 million hotel, the house I grew up in, and the entire future of our family's legacy. It was overwhelming, thrilling, terrifying, and oddly grounding. Something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the kid being bossed around or guilted into compliance anymore. I was the one who had to step forward and decide who I wanted to be. 2 days later, I stood in the lobby of the Rosacliff Grand Hotel for the first time as its owner. The marble floors glimmered beneath crystal chandeliers shaped like inverted waterfalls. The scent of sandalwood and sea salt drifted from the entrance all the way to the reception desk. Guests moved through the space with practiced ease. Business travelers, retirees, newlyweds, all unaware that everything around them now rested on my shoulders. The general manager, a poised woman named Serena, greeted me with a respectful tilt of her head. "We've all been expecting you. Your grandmother spoke highly of your potential." Potential. The word sparked something inside me. I wasn't here to be a figurehead. I wanted to learn every detail, every system, every secret that kept this place running smoothly. So I spent hours shadowing the staff, from housekeeping to the kitchens to the marketing offices. I asked questions. I listened. I even helped carry room service trays just to understand what guests saw and felt. Little by little, the hotel's rhythm seeped into me. It felt alive, breathing through every hallway, whispering history through every polished railing. And I realized that I didn't want to just protect it. I wanted to elevate it. With Grandma's guidance, I began planning renovations to modernize the suites while preserving the hotel's old-world charm. I hired new staff, not because the existing team wasn't good, but because I wanted to bring fresh energy and diverse ideas into the mix. We launched community events, partnered with local artists, and revamped the dining experience to include a rooftop garden sourced by nearby farmers. Guests noticed, word spread, and slowly the hotel began to transform under my leadership, but progress didn't erase the emotional wounds inside me. Some nights, I found myself replaying my mother's face at the moment Grandma cut her off, shocked, panicked, betrayed. Part of me still hurt. Part of me felt guilty, and part of me felt relieved. Not because she suffered, but because I finally understood that love didn't mean letting someone destroy you. Grandma helped me navigate those tangled feelings. We'd sit on the veranda in the evenings, watching the ocean fade into dusk as she shared stories about my grandfather, about resilience, about choosing to grow rather than harden. One night she rested her hand over mine. "You're stronger than you know," she said, "and your mother's choices, painful as they are, do not define your future." I believed her. Slowly, I let the bitterness lift, replacing it with something gentler: acceptance. Months passed before my mother attempted to contact me. Her message was short, too sweet, too desperate. She wanted to talk. She wanted to rebuild. She wanted a piece of the success the hotel was receiving praise for in national magazines. But when her text flashed on my phone, I felt no anger, no longing, just clarity. I typed a single sentence: "I hope you find peace, but I'm not opening this door again." I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to prove anything. The hotel was thriving, the estate was thriving, and I, after everything, was thriving. Standing on the balcony of the Rosacliff Grand, looking out at the waves crashing gently below, I finally understood the sweetest victory wasn't taking something from someone who hurt you. It was growing into someone they could never have imagined you becoming. Someone strong, someone whole, someone free.